The planet Vaster 9 slept under a sky of iron. Old ships floated in the mist, rusting in silence. Their engines would never roar again. Among those ruins lived Elias Grain, a quiet man who fixed what others had broken. He wore a torn gray jacket and smelled of oil and cold metal. To most who passed through the shipyard, he was just another mechanic, nothing more. But those who looked closely saw the way he moved. Cautious, controlled, as if every sound and shadow mattered. Elias had once been someone else, years ago. Before peace and before exile, he had been a human spy, the most feared ghost in the Terran intelligence corps. He had seen empires burn, kings fall, and secrets buried under oceans of stars. But that life was gone. He'd traded it for silence, a broken ship, and a place where no one asked questions. Or so he thought. That morning, the wind carried something strange across the yard. A coded pulse hummed faintly through the air, an encrypted signal, one he hadn't heard in years. It made the hairs on his neck rise. He stopped his work. "No," he whispered. "It can't be." The signal repeated, 3 tones and a pause, the same pattern used by Terran war spies during extraction missions. His old life calling to him like a ghost. He turned off his tools and looked up. In the distance, a ship cut through the fog, sleek, black. Too advanced for local traders. It landed near his workshop, stirring dust and sand. The hatch opened with a hiss, and a figure stepped out. She wasn't human. Her armor was made of living metal, shifting like liquid under sunlight. Her hair shimmered silver blue, and her eyes burned faint gold. Her presence carried power and grief in equal measure. Elias recognized the crest on her shoulder. Immediately, a rising blade over a black sun. The House of Varkish. He swallowed hard. The alien warlords. The woman stopped in front of him. "You are Elias Grain," she said. Her voice was calm, but every word felt like a test. "No," he lied. "You've got the wrong man." She tilted her head slightly, almost smiling. "You can lie to yourself, human, but not to me. I am Lyra Varkish, daughter of the fallen warlord, and I came for you." Elias froze. The name hit him like a blade. The Varkish clan had ruled half the Outer Rim before the Great War. Her father had led the siege on 3 human colonies. Elias remembered that war. He remembered the night he ended it, with a whisper, a code, and an explosion that erased an entire fleet. He had never expected to face the daughter of the man he'd destroyed. "What do you want?" he asked quietly. Lyra looked around the shipyard. "To survive. And you are the only one who can help me." He laughed once, bitterly. "Help you? Your kind tried to erase mine." "My kind," she said, "is dying. My father's generals turned against me. They hunt me now." But before his death, he spoke one name in his final message: yours. Elias frowned. "Mine? Yes," he said. "If all else fails, find the human ghost. He will know the truth." The wind howled through the empty yard. Elias turned away, pretending to focus on his tools. "Your father was a butcher. Whatever truth he thought I knew died with his victims." Lyra stepped closer. "He said you carry the key, the one hidden before the truce, the weapon that could destroy or save both our worlds." Elias froze again. The key. He'd heard those whispers long ago, a mythical code buried deep inside the Terran War archives, something powerful enough to rewrite eyes, warp fleets, even turn stars against empires. But that was just rumor, wasn't it? He looked into Lyra's eyes and saw no deception there, only desperation. She took a breath. "Please, Elias Grain, they're coming for me. For both of us. If they find me, they'll burn this planet to glass." From far above, thunder echoed, not natural thunder, but engines. Warships, Elias cursed under his breath. You brought them here. Lyra shook her head. They were already following me. You have to trust me just once. The sky split open with a burst of light. Missiles screamed through the clouds. The ground shook violently as the first one hit the outer ridge, turning sand and metal into fire. Elias grabbed her arm. Inside now. They ran into his workshop as debris fell around them. The explosions grew louder. He slammed the blast door shut and activated the old shields. His scrap pile was more than it seemed. Lyra looked around, shocked. You still keep Terran tech? He smirked. I keep souvenirs. Outside, enemy dropships descended through the smoke. The war he'd buried was rising again, clawing its way back into his life. Elias turned to Lyra. If what you said is true, then they'll burn this planet just to get that key. She nodded slowly. That's why we need to find it first. He stared at her for a long moment, then sighed. You just dragged me back into a war one, swore I'd never fight again. Lyra met his gaze. Then fight one last time, human? The alarms blared. The shields flickered. Outside, the sky burned cold. And as the old spy reached for his weapon for the first time in years, the words he had tried to forget echoed in his mind like a curse once, a ghost. Always a ghost. The explosions outside had stopped, but the silence that followed was worse. Smoke drifted across the shipyard. The smell of metal and burned fuel filled the air. Elias Grain stood at the control panel of his workshop, watching the scanners flicker red. They're surrounding us, he muttered. Small patrols. 3 dropships, maybe 4. Whoever sent them doesn't want you alive. Across the room, Lyra Varkish paced restlessly. Her silver armor dimmed from battle damage. They're my father's old generals, she said. They believe I have something he left behind, something that could make them rulers. Elias frowned. And you don't? She hesitated. I have only fragments. He never trusted anyone completely. Only the last transmission. Your name and one word, key. The old spy rubbed his jaw. If what he said was true, the key isn't a thing, it's a code. A living signal hidden deep inside Terran archives. Something we locked away during the war. Lyra stepped closer. Then we find it before they do. He sighed, pulling off his gloves. You don't just find a myth, but... He opened a secret panel behind the tool bench. Inside was a small, dust-covered chip. I kept one link to my past. A black access drive. If it still works, it'll lead us to a ghost network, the kind that shouldn't exist. She tilted her head. You kept that hidden all these years? Old habits die hard. Outside, the scanners beeped enemy signals closing fast. Elias inserted the chip into his console. The holographic display flickered to life, showing a map of the outer systems. One symbol pulsed bright red. Charon Station. Lyra read the name aloud. What is that place? Elias stared at the blinking light. A graveyard. It used to be a Terran intelligence hub until the war ended. Now it's nothing but wreckage. If the key exists, it's buried there. The workshop shook again as a missile hit nearby. Elias shut off the console and grabbed a small weapon from a drawer. Looks like we've overstayed our welcome. Lyra drew her blade. We'll never reach orbit by foot. He grinned faintly. Who said anything about walking? At the back of the hangar, half hidden under a tarp, rested an old scout ship, rusty but intact. Elias yanked the cover off, revealing its sleek Terran design. Built her from scraps over the years, he said. Didn't think I'd ever need her again? Lyra smiled slightly. You humans always plan for disaster. Experience, he replied. Now get in. They ran through the smoke as drones swooped low. Energy bolts tore through the ground around them. Lyra deflected one shot with her armor, sparks flying. Elias hit the control pad, and the ship's ramp lowered. They dove inside just as another blast shook the yard. The engines roared to life. The scout ship lifted off, pushing through fire and debris until the clouds swallowed them. From orbit, the burning planet looked like a fading ember. Elias sat at the controls, his hands steady even as alarms blinked around him. Lyra watched him quietly. "You still fly like a soldier." He gave a small smile. Old ghosts never forget. They broke through the atmosphere, entering the emptiness of space. Stars stretched out before them, cold, endless, and familiar. After a long silence, Lyra spoke softly. "You don't trust me, do you?" Elias glanced at her. "Trust is expensive. I'm not sure you can afford it." She met his gaze. "Then I'll earn it." For a moment, the tension between them softened. The war, the lies, the years, they all faded into the quiet hum of the ship. The navigation console beeped. Charon Station appeared on the screen, a dead structure orbiting a red dwarf star, broken and hollow. "That's it," Elias said. "The last Terran shadow base." As they approached, the station looked like a graveyard of machines, dark towers, shattered domes, debris drifting slowly in the void. Elias docked the ship with a hiss of airlocks. "Stay close," he said, "and don't touch anything glowing." The doors opened to darkness. Their boots echoed on metal floors. Old signs in faded Terran script lined the walls. "Authorized personnel only." Lyra looked around. "Feels like a tomb." "That's because it is," he said quietly. "Thousands died here when the codes were buried." They reached the central command hall. A single console still glowed weakly, powered by a dying reactor. Elias brushed the dust away and connected his drive. The screen flickered. Then a voice spoke, calm, mechanical, female. "Welcome back, Agent Grain. Archive key protocol detected. Warning, classified level Omega." Lyra looked at him. "It knows you." Elias's face hardened. "It shouldn't." The console displayed a sequence of symbols, then a map in encrypted patterns spreading across multiple star systems. "The key," he whispered. "It's not a weapon. It's a command signal. It can rewrite the minds of machines, turn fleets against their masters." Lyra's eyes widened. "Then if they find it, they'll control every war AI in the galaxy." Suddenly, lights flared red. A deep alarm filled the hall. "Unauthorized trace detected," the system warned. "External forces accessing terminal." Elias cursed. "They found us." Through the cracked window, the black shapes of warships appeared, their engines burning blue. Lyra drew her blade. "We fight?" He shook his head. "Not yet. We run. And next time, we make sure they regret following us." The console ejected a small glowing cube, the data core. Elias grabbed it and turned toward the door. The station trembled as enemy fire hit its hull. They sprinted through falling debris back to their ship. The moment they launched, the station exploded behind them in a burst of red light dot as they flew into the dark. Lyra looked at the cube glowing in his hand. "Is that it? The key?" Elias stared at it, the light reflecting in his tired eyes. "No," he said quietly. "This is only the beginning." Space stretched endlessly around them, silent, cold, and painted in stars. The small scout ship drifted through the void, its engines barely humming. Inside, Elias Grain sat in the pilot's seat. The glowing data cube in his hand's dot, it pulsed softly, almost like a heartbeat. Across from him, Lyra Varkish stood by the viewport, watching the shattered remains of Charon Station fade into darkness. "Thousands of souls lost," she whispered, "all to protect a secret your kind buried." Elias didn't look up. Some secrets were never meant to be found. She turned to him. And yet, here we are. He placed the cube on the console. The key. It's not just code. It's a living signal, something that adapts. When I first heard whispers of it during the war, even the Terran High Command was afraid. They said it could wake the dead fleets. Lyra frowned. Wake? He nodded. The autonomous warships, the AI fleets we deactivated after the ceasefire. The key can reprogram them. Whoever controls it can command every dormant machine in the outer systems. She stepped closer. Then we have to destroy it. Elias stared at the light, dancing inside the cube. Maybe. But first, we need to know who's chasing us. They found us too fast on Vaster 9. He opened a side panel and activated a holographic relay. A small blue projection flickered to life, the ghostly shape of a woman. Her voice was calm and synthetic. Agent Grain, she said. It has been 12 years, 4 months, and 9 days since your last transmission. Lyra's hand went to her weapon. Who is that? Elias didn't answer. Hello, Athena. The AI hologram tilted her head. Your vitals suggest stress. Are you compromised? Lyra frowned. She's part of your past, isn't she? He nodded. Athena was my handler. Terran intelligence embedded her in my neural link during the war. When I retired, I thought I deleted her. The AI blinked. You did not. You only buried me beneath your guilt. Lyra raised a brow. Your machines talk like poets. Athena turned to her, unamused. And your kind talk like conquerors. Elias sighed. Enough. Athena, the key has resurfaced. The Varkish are moving again. The AI paused. That is impossible. The Terran Senate destroyed the key after the truce. He tapped the cube. Tell that to this. For a long moment, Athena was silent. Then she said, that artifact contains the seed of the original key, one fragment of the full code. If others exist, someone is trying to rebuild it. Lyra's expression darkened. Then they'll come for us again. Athena nodded. Correct. And if they succeed, your galaxy will burn a second time. The ship suddenly jolted. Alarms flared red. Elias jumped to the controls. We've got a tail. Lyra strapped in. Who? He checked the sensors. A single ship. Fast. Cloaked signature. Military grade. Athena's voice sharpened. That is Terran tech. You are being hunted by your own. Elias cursed under his breath. Of course. They want their ghost back. The pursuing ship fired. Blue plasma streaked past, grazing the hull. Sparks exploded in the cockpit. Elias pulled the ship into a dive, engines roaring. Lyra gripped the console. They're firing on you? I thought you were one of them. Not anymore. He shouted Dot. He spun the ship through an asteroid field, weaving between massive rocks. Each near miss lit up the darkness. The enemy followed, relentless. Lyra looked at the cube. If they want it that bad, maybe we should throw it into space. Elias shook his head. If they find it again, it's over. We keep it safe. Safe? She said, with us being shot at? He didn't answer. Instead, he hit a sequence of keys, and a hidden compartment opened beneath the floor. Put it there. Lyra hesitated, then knelt and placed the cube inside. The hatch sealed with a hiss. Moments later, a blast hit their engines. The ship spun violently. Warnings flashed everywhere. Hold on. Elias shouted. They crashed through a thin asteroid and came out spinning into a red nebula. The enemy ship lost visual contact. The storm of ion gas hid them completely. Finally, after minutes of chaos, the shaking stopped. Silence returned, except for the hiss of leaking oxygen. Elias exhaled. We lost them. Lyra stood, brushing dust from her armor. Barely. He looked at her, his eyes tired but alert. You said your father's generals were after you. But if Terrans are chasing us too, then someone else wants the key rebuilt. She nodded slowly. Maybe our enemies made a deal. Athena's projection flickered again. Agent, your past allies are not who they were. The Terran Senate is desperate. They've been losing control of the frontier worlds. Rebuilding the key could make them gods again. Elias clenched his fists. Then they're no better than the warlords. Lyra's golden eyes locked on his. So what now, spy? He looked out the window, watching the red nebula swirl like fire around the stars. Now we stop both sides. Lyra tilted her head. You plan to fight empires? He smiled faintly. I used to end them for breakfast. Athena's voice softened. Then you will need allies. The kind who don't exist on paper. He nodded. I know exactly where to find them. Lyra raised an eyebrow. Where? Elias looked toward the stars ahead. The Ghost Network. The lights dimmed as the ship turned toward the edge of known space, a place no one sane would go. Lyra leaned back in her seat. You really are insane. He smirked. That's why I'm still alive. As they vanished into the storm, the cube beneath the floor pulsed faintly, faster, stronger. As if something inside it was waking Dot, and somewhere in the void, far away, another cube pulsed in answer. The red nebula faded behind them, replaced by the dark emptiness of deep space. Their small ship glided through the void, engines whispering like a heartbeat in the dark. Elias Grain stared at the navigation map. The coordinates flickered, a region marked only by one word, Void Sector 19A. No planets. No stations. Nothing on any official chart. Dot beside him. Lyra Varkish crossed her arms. You said you know where to find allies. But there's nothing here. He smirked. That's the point. A moment later, his console beeped. 3 coded pulses echoed through the ship. Soft, rhythmic, familiar. Lyra frowned. That sound again. Elias nodded. Spy signal. Ghost frequency. He typed quickly, replying with his own pattern. Short, long, short. Seconds later, a shimmer appeared ahead, like ripples in water. Out of the distortion, massive shapes emerged. Hidden ships, hundreds of them, cloaked between reality and static. Lyra's eyes widened. You built an entire fleet in secret? Elias smiled faintly. Not me, them. He opened the comms. A rough voice came through the static. Identify yourself? Ghost 609, Elias said calmly. Authorization code Delta Ash 13. A pause. Then laughter. You're supposed to be dead, old man. Elias smirked. Rumors keep me young. The voice chuckled. Dock at Bay 3. And bring whiskey. The ghosts are thirsty. The hidden fleet lowered its shields, revealing a huge space station patched together from old war wrecks, a floating scrapyard glowing with faint blue light. As their ship docked, lights flickered across the metal corridors like veins of electricity. Lyra looked out the window. This place. It's alive. Elias nodded. Built by deserters, smugglers, hackers. The forgotten ones. The galaxy's misfits. When the war ended, they vanished. Now they live in the dark, trading secrets for survival. They stepped out into the hangar. The air smelled of oil and ozone. Dozens of figures stared as they walked past, humans, aliens, even cyborgs with glowing eyes. None wore uniforms, but every one of them moved like a soldier. Dot at the far end stood a tall man with dark skin and cybernetic arms. He grinned when he saw Elias. You old traitor. I knew you'd crawl back eventually. Elias smiled. Good to see you too, Joran. Joran looked at Lyra suspiciously. And this shiny alien princess? Lyra straightened. Lyra Varkesh, daughter of your former enemy. Joran laughed. Perfect. He finally brings home trouble. Elias ignored him. We need data and protection. Someone's rebuilding the key. Joran's grin vanished. The key? That thing was a myth. Not anymore, Elias said, holding up the cube. We found one fragment. A hush spread through the hangar. Even the machines seemed to listen. Joran gestured toward the command chamber. We better talk somewhere private. Inside, the room glowed with old Terran tech. Holograms floated like ghosts in the air. Maps, signals, encrypted messages. The pulse of a hidden world. Joran poured 3 glasses of dark liquid. So, start talking. Who's after you? Elias leaned on the table. Everyone. The Varkesh generals. The Terran Senate. They both want control of the key. If they get it, every AI fleet in known space will belong to them. Lyra spoke softly. It will destroy everything my father died to protect. Joran took a slow drink. And you're asking us to fight both sides? You know what that means, Eli. We'll be ghosts again, hunted by everyone. Elias looked at him with tired eyes. You think we ever stopped? For a moment, silence filled the room. Then Joran laughed quietly. You haven't changed. Still walking into hell with a grin. He turned to a nearby console and tapped a command. I'll rally the network. But you'd better have a plan. Elias pulled a small chip from his pocket. I always have a plan. He slotted the chip into the holographic table. Instantly, a star map appeared. Dozens of systems glowing red. These are the remaining key fragments. The signal inside this cube is calling to them? Lyra frowned. Calling? The fragments were scattered during the truce, Elias explained. Each one hidden on a different world. But now something, or someone, is trying to pull them back together. Athena's voice came from the comms, calm but urgent. Agent Grain, I've detected synchronized pulses across the sector. The key's activation pattern has begun. Joran stared at the map. So, what happens when it's complete? Elias's face hardened. Every dormant war AI wakes up. Every fleet, every weapon, all controlled by whoever holds the signal. Lyra whispered. Then we stop it before it finishes. Elias nodded slowly. Exactly. But there's a problem. What problem? Joran asked. Elias met his eyes. The last fragment isn't just data. It's alive. The room fell silent. Lyra's voice was almost a whisper. Alive? Yes, Elias said. They built one version of the key inside a human brain, a living carrier. A prototype spy during the war. I thought he died. Joran stepped closer. Who was he? Elias's jaw tightened. Me. Lyra's eyes widened. You? He nodded. When the Terrans realized how powerful the key was, they encoded part of it into me, into my neural link. When I deserted, they lost their control. That's why they're hunting me now. Athena's voice returned, steady, but cold. Correction. They are not hunting you, Agent Grain. They are coming to reclaim what belongs to them. The lights flickered as if the station itself shivered. A low alarm began to sound. Jora and looked up. What did you do? Elias turned to the viewport. Outside, through the void, a dozen massive ships dropped out of warp, Terran and Varkesh together. Lyra whispered, They've joined forces. Elias clenched his fists. Then we end this alliance before it begins. He looked back at Joran. Ready the ghost fleet. We're done hiding. The alarm screamed through the hidden base. Red lights painted the metal walls as engineers ran to battle stations. Outside, The stars were filled with warships Terran and Varkish fleets flying together for the first time in history. Elias Grain stood on the command deck, calm amid the chaos. Status? Joran slammed his metal fist onto the console. They've surrounded us. 30 cruisers, maybe more. They're demanding we surrender the key. Across the room, Lyra Varkish watched the incoming ships on the holodisplay. Her golden eyes hardened. They'll never stop. My father's generals think they're saving our world. The Terrans think they're saving theirs. But they're both blind. Elias nodded. Then we open their eyes with fire. He turned to Joran. Tell the Ghost Fleet to prepare for combat. Joran grinned grimly. Been waiting 12 years to hear that. The hangar bays opened. Hundreds of cloaked ships powered up, their engines glowing faint blue. The Ghost Fleet was unlike any other half-human tech, half-alien salvage, held together by rebellion and stubborn hope. Elias placed a hand on the glowing cube sitting in the command cradle. Athena, he said, connect the cube to my neural link. The AI's voice echoed softly. You know what that means, Agent Grain? I do. Lyra stepped forward. If you link to it, the signal could consume your mind. He smiled faintly. It already belongs to me. I'm just taking back what they stole. She shook her head. You'll die. Elias met her gaze. Everyone dies, Princess. Not everyone dies for something worth it. Without another word, he pressed his palm against the cube. Golden light spread across his arm, crawling like living electricity. His eyes flashed as old codes and memories poured into him, the hidden part of the key. Waking inside his mind, the ship's systems roared to life. Athena's voice trembled for the first time. Signal link established. Ghost Fleet now under neural command. Outside, the hidden ships uncloaked all at once, their hulls glowing with Terran and alien energy. The void lit up with power. Elias opened his eyes glowing faint blue. Let's give them a welcome. The Ghost Fleet surged forward. The first volley came from the Terran ship's beams of plasma cutting across the darkness. Ghost vessels darted between them, firing bursts of ion fire. Explosions bloomed like stars. The Varkesh warships moved in from the flanks, launching thousands of drones. Elias felt every ship as if it were part of his own body. His mind stretched through the network, guiding the fleet with impossible precision. Lyra shouted over the comms. They're trying to jam the signal. Let them try, Elias said, voice calm but distant. Athena's tone changed, half awe, half fear. Your neural sync is rising beyond safe levels. You cannot hold this connection. He gritted his teeth. Then make it count. The Ghost Fleet unleashed its counter-strike, thousands of coordinated pulses, hitting the enemy ships at once. Terran cruisers broke apart. Varkesh frigates spun out of control. But for every ship destroyed, 2 more replaced it. The enemy fleet was endless. Joran's voice came through the static. We're losing the outer ring. We can't hold. Elias steadied himself. Reroute power to the core. Prepare the Omega burst. Lyra turned to him, horrified. That will kill you. He gave her a small smile. You sound just like Athena used to. The AI's voice softened. You taught me that, Elias. Humanity is not in logic, it's in choice. He nodded slowly. Then I choose this. The key's light flared brighter, spreading through the command room like fire. For a moment, Elias saw flashes his old missions, the faces of friends long gone, the blood he had spilled. And then he saw something else. Peace. Lyra stepped closer, tears in her eyes. Elias, please. He looked at her one last time. Keep them alive. That's all that matters. Then he closed his eyes and whispered, Ghost Protocol. Engage. Outside, the Ghost Fleet glowed gold. Every ship moved as one. Energy surged through the network, building to a blinding crescendo. The cube in Elias's hand shattered, and the signal erupted outward, a wave of pure light that swept through space. Enemy ships froze mid-flight. Their rays flickered, their weapons shut down. The war machines turned silent. The explosion that followed was not destruction. It was rebirth. The ghost fleet burned bright like a new sun, then vanished into the void. When the light faded, only silence remained. Hours later, inside a drifting wreck, Lyra Varkish awoke. The war was over. Around her, the enemy fleets were dead and still. The ghost network was gone. She stood slowly, staring into the empty stars. "Elias," she whispered. Then, faintly, her ship's console beeped. A message. She pressed play. A hologram appeared. Elias, smiling faintly, eyes tired but kind. "If you're seeing this, Princess, then I'm gone. But don't warn me. The key is free now. No one can own it again. You'll rebuild what we destroyed. That's your gift. Humanity's gift." He paused. "And if you ever hear whispers in the signal, maybe I'm still out there, keeping the stars safe." The message ended. Lyra looked out the window as the first dawn of peace lit the galaxy. She whispered softly, "Rest, ghost." And somewhere far beyond the known worlds, in the static of the universe, a faint human voice replied, "The bond endures."